Hey love bugs, welcome back to another Tarot Lover Reviews. Today we are taking a look at the Dreams of Gaia Tarot created by Raveen Falan. So if you have heard of this tarot deck or you did not know this tarot deck even existed, hopefully this review and the flip through that comes afterwards helps you to decide on whether or not this tarot deck is right for you. Now, if you want to skip to the flip through right away, take a look at my description. I break down all of the suits into chapters to make it easier for you to locate where you want to start in the flip through. But for right now, we are going to talk about the packaging on this tarot deck, the guidebook, the cards, definitely to give you all the details that you need prior to making your purchase. So if you're interested, stick around. Otherwise, feel free to fast forward to the flip through. But let's get into the packaging. So here is the front. As you can see, you have that gloss finish. Definitely gives you an idea for what to expect with the cards themselves. I have noticed that with a lot of the boxes within certain tarot decks, they tend to make the same type of texture on the cards as they have on the packaging. I'm not saying all of the tarot decks do that, but I have noticed with some of the ones that I do own that they tend to do that. So it's nice to see what you could expect with your tarot cards prior to actually opening up the box. So this is what the box looks like. Okay, and this was published by Blue Angel Publishing, and Raveen has done a lot of other oracle decks. She's created other oracle decks. She has done the artwork on other oracle decks as well for other creators. So definitely take a look at Blue Angel Publishing and take a look at her works. So here is how the box opens. And then again, I'm always going to mention the thickness of the box because I appreciate that it's thicker, just in case you were to accidentally drop the box on the floor with your cards in there. You know your cards are safe because the box will take the brunt of the force, which it kind of has fallen. So there is some little indentations to the box, but my cards are fine. So that is the packaging. Let's talk about the guidebook. Now I'm keeping my hands in a particular section because I got stuff to talk about with you guys on this one. But this is what the guidebook is. Just beautiful. It is beautiful. It is that thick, ladies and gentlemen. It is a book, okay? This is a definition of a guidebook, okay? So that is what the book looks like. Okay, now in regards to what is within the books, you do get an image of the card, okay, and then you get a ton of information for that particular card in this book, hence why it's such a thick book, okay? So for the major arcanas, you receive, well, for all cards, you receive keywords, then you also receive key phrases. You get a meaning and then additional information. So for the major arcana, you get the meaning, you get the past, you get the future, or the present, I'm sorry. So past, present, and future, and then potential blockages. So you have 4 things. You have the meaning, past, present, future, sorry, 5, and the potential blockages. You have 5 different items that are discussed for each of the majors. For the minors, it's less than that. For the minors, you get the meaning, you get the meaning and just potential blockages. You do not get the past, present, or future, okay, for the minors. Majors are the only ones that will provide you with that, but the minors still provide you with the keywords and the key phrases for each of the cards, okay? So I absolutely love that. Another thing that I will mention, it does have themed tarot spreads, and you get more than 2. I believe you get like 4. So you have 4 different themed tarot spreads that you can utilize, and I appreciate that, okay? It always helps to really connect with your tarot cards when you have a specific tarot spread made for that tarot deck. So I much appreciated. So that is the guidebook in all its glory. Let's talk about the cards because there's a lot to unfold with this particular tarot deck. So this is what the backs of the cards look like. And as you expected, it is a gloss finish, just like the box. Okay. And the cardstock. Let's talk about the cardstock. The cardstock's interesting because it's a little on the thicker side because it is a larger card. Okay. This is a standard Rider-Waite-Smith tarot card, right? And it's larger than your average card. So it makes for an interesting shuffle. The cardstock, you would expect it to be a little bit on the thicker side, which it is. It is a little bit on the thicker side to take on the fact that the card is larger. But it's interesting because when you hold the card, it doesn't feel as thick as it should be, but it's thick as a whole. Because when you try to shuffle in that poker style shuffle, and I mean, you know, let me give you an example like this, right? I can fold it, but I still feel the tension from how thick the cards are, which again is what I would expect. So that's kind of how I gauge a Goldilocks zone cardstock, is when I try to shuffle in this manner. Do I have a strain? Do I have to strain to shuffle it that way? Or is it way too easy to bend the cards? Because if I strain to shuffle in that type of manner, then that means the cardstock's thicker. If it's just way too easy to do it that way, then that means the cardstock might be thinner, because the cards are so flexible and I can just do it effortlessly. Whereas with the Goldilocks zone of all cardstocks, I am able to easily do that poker style shuffle without strain, and it doesn't bend too easy, and it's not too there's not too much tension when I try to bend the cards. It's like a Goldilocks zone of a cardstock. That's what I mean when I say Goldilocks. So with this particular cardstock, I would say it's a little bit on the thicker side, but again, I believe it's because of the size of the cards. You need to make up for the added space that it's taking up in that case. So again, another visual example of, you know, the thickness of the cardstock. I like to do my little C scale. So this right here would be the point where your cardstock is paper thin. You have that Goldilocks zone cardstock that we're all looking for. And then you have the really thick cardstock where you cannot bend for the life of you that cardstock to do a poker style shuffle. Now, again, I will also say before I get into that little C scale, you do not have to shuffle your tarot deck in that poker style shuffle. You can do the over under method. You can put your tarot cards all over a table and just mix them up that way and pull out the ones that you want to use. There are several ways that you can shuffle your tarot deck. You don't have to do it in that poker style way, if that makes sense. So going back to my visual, we're going to start at that Goldilocks zone. Definitely it's a notch down into the thicker side. Not too ridiculous, but just enough to where there's some thickness to it and there's some tension when you do try to do that poker style shuffle, okay? What else did I want to talk about? We talked about the size, we talked about the back, the texture, and the cardstock. Let's talk about the imagery. Let's talk about the naming conventions, all compared to the standard Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck. I like to do this because a lot of the other tarot decks out there, a lot of the guidebooks that are available for purchase out there are all based off of, majority of the time, Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck. Okay, so that's why I do a lot of comparisons to that tarot deck to give you an idea, especially if you are new to your tarot journey. I want to make sure that you are aware of these things. Okay, so let's start with the imagery. The imagery does not follow the Rider-Waite-Smith imagery at all. Okay, this is definitely an intuitive led tarot deck. Okay, so none of the imagery is going to give you I mean, it's going to give you a hint of what that card would be in a tarot deck perspective, but a lot of this imagery is very intuitive. You know, it's what comes to you. And it may not be what that card is supposed to be, but intuitively, that's what's supposed to happen, right? So this tarot deck does not follow your tarot system standard vibes, however you want to say it. It is almost like you are learning a brand new form of tarot with this tarot deck. The guidebook tells you that. She tells you that this is not your average tarot deck. And for sure, that is the case. It took me a while to purchase this deck because I knew it did not follow your standard Rider-Waite imagery at all. I knew it. So I wanted to make sure that I felt comfortable in my tarot journey to pick up this tarot deck. And once I did, and I started to look through it, I could see what it was talking about, but it was beautiful. It's beautiful messages. So definitely when you pick up this tarot deck and you start to use it, give yourself some grace, okay? Give yourself some grace. Understand that this does not follow the standard Rider-Waite-Smith system, imagery, tarot in general. Just keep that in mind, okay? Let's talk about the naming conventions, okay? So, naming conventions does not follow, you guessed it, does not follow the Rider-Waite-Smith naming conventions. Neither the major arcana nor the minor arcana follow it, okay? For the minor arcana, when it comes to the description within the guidebook, you see some similarities to the Rider-Waite-Smith way of explaining what that tarot card is, but for the most part, it is different, okay? Again, you guys expect this to be a brand new form of learning divination, okay? So naming conventions out the window, completely different. This is an 80 card tarot deck, okay? There are more cards to the major arcana than minor. A minor, it's the same, kind of like your ace to your king, okay? Your major arcana, you have more to it. So I'm gonna pick up the guidebook and kind of give you some explanations on that to kind of give you an idea of what I mean, okay? So the major arcana, because she gives you a deck structure section to explain. So major arcana is broken up into 4 groups: the choice card, stages of life, reasons of being, and influences. So there are 25 major arcana cards and 56 minor, okay? So that's the major arcana. The minor arcana do not use archetypes generally used by other current or traditional tarot. However, it still embraces many common archetypes. For example, the Empress and Emperor have been replaced by the Mother and Father, which is how we typically would read the Empress and the Emperor, right? And then while the High Priestess and the Hierophant have been replaced by the Crone and the Sage. The Devil makes way for the Desire card. So the Devil is called Desire, which explores and discusses the effect of primal wants and desires on our ability to weigh our choices and act upon them. And then they kind of she goes into, you know, the choice cards. She breaks down each of the major arcana groups. The choice cards, the reason of being, the influences. And then she goes into the minor arcana, and she says that the minor arcana is elements in nature. There are 4 suits. Your suits are air, earth, fire, and water. So again, they are not following your standard Rider-Waite naming conventions. On top of that, I'm going to stop there for a moment. On top of that, the court cards give you a name, okay? But the minor arcanas do not. I'm trying to give you, here we go. So element of air. Here's the 2 of air. Does not give you the name of air. It gives you the symbol of air. And if you know the 2 of swords, you can kind of see the similarities when it comes to the 2 of swords, but then at the same time you don't. Okay, so again, you are completely learning a brand new system. Here is the ace of swords. Does not give you that same kind of ace of swords vibe. The court cards, you do get the Queen of Air, okay? But again, we're gonna get into the knights and the pages. So I'm gonna jump back to the book here. But there are 4 suits, earth, air, fire, and water, with 14 cards in each. They are numbered from ace through 10 with 1 element or balancing card, which would technically represent the page, and 3 court cards. So the traditional king and queen remain, but within each suit, there is a figure that stands beside the throne. For each of them, it's kind of, it's the knights. So it could be a scribe. It could be the champion, the warrior, the hero. So knights are considered advisors instead of people who act, right? They're more advisors to the king and queen. Let me see. The role of each suit is very specific. I don't think they go too much into the, they don't go too much into the pages, but the pages are states of mind. Kind of like, states of mind, how you are. You have to read the guidebook. So definitely there is a difference between the knights and the pages within the court cards. The kings and queens stay the same. They're all element based. Again, definitely different. Definitely something that you have to get used to when it comes to reading this tarot deck. So it will take some time for you to get used to it. And I know I'm just repeating myself, but it's going to take you some time. For me, at least, to get comfortable with reading with this deck for others, it's going to take me some time. I have yet to read for anyone with this particular tarot deck because I want to make sure I fully understand how it works, the processes and all that stuff. So I apologize for the train going off in the background. I always try to do it before a train goes by. But anyways, that is the imagery. So definitely this is not a big undertaking, but it is something that you are learning a new way to read tarot with. And I don't see a problem with that. It's just, if you're still learning tarot, which I think everyone is still learning tarot, regardless of how long you've been doing this, there is always something new to learn about the tarot and be able to view tarot. And I think this particular tarot deck is just another way to expand your way of thinking and seeing tarot. You know what I mean? Just because it has a different, aspect, it still adds on to it. And if you read with a different tarot deck, I think some of the things that you learn from this one, from Dreams of Gaia, will assist you when you end up using other tarot decks. I know it has assisted me when I use or think of other tarot decks when I'm using a different one, if that makes sense. But it's just another way of expanding your view on tarot and how a particular tarot card is viewed, if that makes sense. So pain points is the learning curve. Definitely the learning curve. Getting used to the elements and what the elements is, because I am not 100% solid on my element symbols. So it still takes me a bit to remember what that element is, so that I, you know, what that symbol is referencing when it comes to an element. And yeah, so it takes me, oh, excuse me, it takes me a while to fully do a reading with this tarot deck, but it is beautiful, the message that comes out. It's relatable, it's understandable, it's like, dude, it's mind-blowing majority of the time. So when you take the time to understand this tarot deck, it's amazing. Just know that it will take you some time in getting used to it and utilizing the book, because I have been constantly utilizing the book and understanding and just expanding the way that I see certain cards, like I said. But yeah, that is this review. If you found this helpful in any way, feel free to like this video. Be sure to take a look at my channel and see if there's any other tarot decks that you might be interested in that I have reviewed. Or if you do not see a tarot deck that you were interested in that I have not done a review on, leave a comment. Let me know what that tarot deck is, because chances are I probably haven't, and I just haven't done a review on it just yet. So let me know. But without further ado, enjoy the flip through, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye. you.